Hi, Analisa Six here to bring you the June 2023 horoscope for the zodiac sign of Sagittarius, Sun and Rising placements for the Sober Curator and the Lady of Leisure. Did I already say that? I think I already said that. I don't know. I just ate. I feel like I try not to eat before I get on these because it's like kind of slows my brain down. Even when I eat healthy, I ate a fruit bowl. Oh, there's a hummingbird outside that's resting on my string lights. I have some string lights on our little pergola, and there's a hummingbird that just came and sat. I don't know if it's the same hummingbird. I have a hummingbird that I feel like is the same one that comes up to the window and just looks in and like wants to check me out. And I was kind of sad because I have some agaves that are blooming that it like comes up and drinks the water out of the agaves, and I decided to move the agaves to the front yard. And I was like, oh, the hummingbird's probably not going to be back here anymore since I'm moving the agaves. I mean, we've got some other cacti flowering, but I just think they like hanging out in our yard. We have a good yard for birds, I guess. All right, Sagittarius, it's our time. I'm not a Sagittarius sun, but I'm Sagittarius rising. So this horoscope, it tends to be very accurate for me as well. So let's dive in and see what we have going on. So we are currently in Gemini season. It is June 1st on the day that I'm recording this. The sun is at 10 degrees of Gemini. I think I said 11 degrees in the other videos, which is tomorrow. Oops. 10 degrees of Gemini today. And Gemini is the opposite sign of Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is mutable fire energy and Gemini is mutable air. And in the chart, they oppose each other. And so, you know, it's kind of that like opposites attract thing where they both represent different things that kind of fall in a similar spectrum of things, if that makes sense. Sagittarius is the sign of the seeker, and it's the sign that's like kind of always asking what's out there, why does this work the way that it does. And so Sagittarius rules higher education like college or studying abroad or doing kind of like extra, you know, trade schools or curricular activities. Not saying Gemini can't have something to do with some trade schools as well, because it can. And then Sagittarius also rules things like astrology, publishing, metaphysical studies, spiritual studies, religion, theology, long distance travel, cultural studies, those types of things. And it's ruled by the planet Jupiter. Gemini is in a similar spectrum in terms of education, but it's considered to be more like simplified learning. And I don't mean simplified learning as easy learning, but in things that are more mathematical and formulaic. And so in Sagittarius, we might not have the formula. We might be more so asking the question. So like a Sagittarius question would be, you know, why are we here, or what happens when we die? And a Gemini question would be more maybe like a physics question or a math question, like, you know, what is the square root of blah? You know, you can tell I'm not super Gemini dominant because I do astrology. I'm not an astronomer. I am an astrologer. Astronomy could fall into the Sagittarius area though, but it tends to be more of a actual mathematical science in terms of what's actually happening in the sky versus astrology, where it's the way we perceive what's happening in the sky while putting meaning to it, which is very Sagittarius. And Gemini is the affirmation for Gemini is I know. So in Sagittarius we seek, and in Gemini we know. So that's kind of the difference, right? In Gemini, there's kind of like more of this quantifiable research, whereas in Sagittarius, we could be seeking answers that we're never going to have the answers for. You know, we might be asking questions we'll never have the answers to, is what I mean. I speak in a very Sagittarius type way, having my Mercury in the 9th house in the Placidus house system. So sometimes I tongue twister myself. I tongue twister myself. Wow. This is entertaining. This is an entertaining video for me. I don't know about you, but it is for me. So, so those are just some things, you know, knowing that Gemini is kind of, you know, what's dominant in the sky and that it's opposite us. And so sometimes we have this kind of feeling of opposition where it's off feeling, you know, we're like, oh, the energy is not what I'm used to. It's the opposite of what I'm used to, unless we have Gemini placements. So if you're a Sagittarius person that has a lot of Gemini energy, then you might still feel like Gemini season is, you know, kind of a at-home energy to you. But if you're a Sagittarius like me that doesn't have, or Sagittarius rising, I should say, like me, that doesn't have a lot of Gemini energy, Gemini can kind of feel a little bit like opposing energy, you know, like an opposites thing. So the sun is highlighting the area of the horoscope chart for Sag that has to do with our personal relationships. So romantic partners, best friends, business partners, those type, any kind of partnership. And the sun brings vitality and energy wherever it is. And so we have vitality and energy in our personal partnerships. And I feel that right now. I don't know about you other Sag people, but because Juno's also in Gemini. So Juno's also hitting this part. And Juno's the asteroid that represents partnership, contractual partnership, marriage, that type of stuff as well. And I'm definitely, you know, I mean, I have a pretty good relationship. My marriage is pretty solid. And, you know, I definitely feel like when I'm getting this area of my chart highlighted, it does feel like we're, you know, really seeking each other out and spending more time together. We just had a really nice date night, couple days over the last couple over the last 2 days. We had some really nice days together. So I feel like the sun energy and Juno energy here is definitely bringing that in. So if you're a Sag dominant person feeling a desire for connection with your partner, and feeling like you want to focus on that, that's definitely highlighted in June. Mercury, we're starting the month out with Mercury 16 degrees Taurus today on the 1st. And Mercury has been in Taurus since April. It went retrograde in Taurus at the end of April. And so we're finishing out. Oh, there's a little bug in my ephemeris. That is a tiny bug. Try to get that out of there. My whole house is just covered in bugs right now. So we're finishing out the Mercury and Taurus cycle over the first week and a half of June. And where all of that energy was hitting for Sag dominance was in the area that has to do with our daily routine and our health. And so if we felt kind of like we were feeling stagnant in the daily routine, or we just couldn't get momentum in the ways that we wanted to, or maybe we wanted to create a new structure in our daily routine over the retrograde cycle, that was all stuff that was highlighted. And then, you know, if there's certain different like health things that we're trying to implement in our life, or if we're having health complications, and those are things that we're navigating and figuring out, that's all highlighted right now. But because Mercury is no longer retrograde, we should be, you know, kind of starting to gain some momentum and moving forward out of the areas that we've been feeling stagnant. One of the things though that's happening that, you know, is kind of a bummer is that even though we're out of the Mercury retrograde bubble, Mercury is moving towards Uranus right now. So on the 4th and the 5th, Mercury is going to make a conjunction with Uranus. And it feels like similar energy to Mercury retrograde when Mercury and Uranus make a conjunction, in the sense that things get a little haywire. We might get some unexpected news, or some kind of thing happens that's a little discombobulating. Communication can also be wonky that day, those days that's happening. So we're in that bubble already, and we start out the month kind of in this bubble where communication is a little bit off. It's important that we're really mindful of our nervous system and how we're regulating our nervous system and what we're putting in our bodies and our health and all of that, since the health area is highlighted. Uranus Mercury conjunction, we could be more prone to hurting ourselves or having some kind of accident when Uranus is involved in the area of health. But, you know, Uranus has been in this area for a while. It's just, you know, when a personal planet comes and meets up with it, it activates kind of another shift. If we're feeling like we are ready to make some positive changes in our life, this might be the energy that we feel like we're finally able to just get sick of our own shit and do it. I know for me, kind of thinking about Mercury retrograde, I've just been kind of stuck in this stagnant bubble with my health for a while now. And I did finally get a doctor's appointment on the books during the Mercury retrograde, which is huge for me. I haven't had a doctor's appointment since I was 23. So 10 years. I'm 33 now, 23 or 24. No, I'm sorry. I had to have been 24, almost 10 years, you know, and I haven't had health insurance since then. And getting the health insurance, getting the doctor's office to call me back or even answer the phone, you know, of course, this was all during Mercury retrograde, was a huge pain in the ass. And if I wasn't in such a rush to try to like get this on the books, I would have waited. But it's already been so many years and so much time that I've been waiting that it's just like, I just have to try, you know. But I got that on the books. And so it's, you know, not happening until July, but at least it's on the calendar. So that felt like, you know, a win. But, you know, now that we're still kind of in this bubble of this Taurus energy here, I'm trying to just do what I can on my own to make sure that I have, good health. So making sure I maintain my diet really well, exercising where I can, and just, doing the things I know that help me in those ways. The other thing that happened last month that, I'm just going to kind of bring a reminder to as we enter June, because we're really fully in it now, is that Jupiter is in Taurus now and will be for the rest of the year. And Jupiter is also in this area that represents our daily routines and how we're of service in the world, and also our health. And wherever Jupiter is brings growth and expansion and abundance. And so that was also what happened was I booked my doctor's appointment around the time that Jupiter was entering Taurus and around the time that Mercury was stationing. I think Mercury was still retrograde actually, but it kind of all coincided in this way that was interesting to me. So the fact that Jupiter is going to be in this place while I'm addressing my health issues and finally getting momentum around my health, I find fascinating, because the whole rest of the year for me is going to be centered around my health. For you, it might be the same way. It might have something more to do with how you structure your life. The whole structure of how you've been living your life might change. Like if you're somebody that likes to sleep in really late and that's been, negative for your mental health, and maybe you feel like you're ready to, switch it up and start waking up early, like that's something, going to bed earlier, trying out different things. You're prone to wanting to kind of create better routines for yourself in that way and being more organized around it. I believe that Taurus rules the thyroid and the throat. And so that's also something, oh man, I'm like, is my shit going to be a thyroid issue? I just realized that runs in my family. And that's one of the things I have to get tested for is my thyroid. So my grandma is on like a thyroid medication, and I'm sitting here like, oh my God, I'm having that realization right now that I might have a thyroid issue. That's pretty funny to me though, that I'm just now having that realization. So yeah, so keeping your thyroid health in check, and things that are good for your throat, all that kind of stuff, throat chakra work, that kind of thing is also kind of highlighted with Mercury and Jupiter here. So we're starting the month out that way. Venus, we're starting the month out with her at the later degrees of Cancer. She's going to be finishing up her time in Cancer over the first 5 days of June, and then she's going to be entering Leo. So where she's been in the 8th house that represents marriage and death, rebirth, shared assets, loans, debts, inheritance, those kinds of things. And Venus is a beneficial planet, so wherever she is, she's bringing good fortune. And so there's good fortune around finances, shared resources, and even connecting with your partner in a more intimate way, those things. So she's been there doing her thing. And then on the 5th, she's going to move into Leo and join Mars. So Mars entered Leo last month and has already been hanging out in this area. And then now on the 5th, Venus is going to enter this area and stay there for the rest of the month in Leo. And the area of the chart that this is happening in is the 9th house, which is the area that Sagittarius traditionally rules. And so this is actually really positive energy for us. Mars always brings a bit of challenge and conflict and tension. However, Mars being in Leo in a fire sign makes a trine to Sagittarius, because fire likes fire. So it brings more of an ease. So this is actually a really positive time for Sagittarius to be focusing on that kind of seeking energy or wanderlust energy when it comes to growing and learning more about spirituality or other cultures. I have been really interested in maybe starting to take more courses on astrology, because I'll sign up for free webinars, here and there and take them. I've always had this fantasy that I'm going to get certified as an astrologer. I'm certified as a tarot reader, tarot teacher. I'm not certified as an astrologer, and I've always wanted to take some sort of certification course. But what type of course I want to take, this is usually where I get in the way of myself, is I have a really hard time choosing which one. And I'm also, kind of interested in switching what type of astrology I practice. I do transpersonal humanistic astrology using a Placidus house system for my readings. With horoscopes, I use a whole sign system and tend to kind of see it more through a traditional lens. And I've also been looking at my own chart through a whole sign house system in a more traditional way. Thanks to one of my astrology friends, Melissa LaFera, who's a traditional astrologer. And I really love Hellenistic astrology. And so I just have been really interested in learning more about that. I've got a few books on it already. It's something that I've kind of had an interest in since I started, but in terms of making that leap over to a new, modality of astrology after I've been doing it one way for so long, it's definitely nerve-wracking. But as a Sag rising person with a lot of ninth house placements, I really love doing that kind of stuff because I get bored easily. I like to constantly be learning more and pushing myself to grow. So looking at this chart with where, the fact Venus is going to be entering this area and Mars is already here, this would actually be a really positive time for someone like me to actually look into a course, and signing up for something like that. So if you're somebody, if you're a Sag dominant person and you're thinking about wanting to expand your knowledge on something that you're already interested in or something new, that's super supported. And Venus is going to be here until October, and she's going to station retrograde at the end of July. Mars is only going to be here until mid-July, but we have a lot of energy around, kind of our ambition when it comes to that stuff. And also there's a lot of energy around travel. So if you're feeling kind of restless, which Sagittarius, let's admit it, we all feel restless all the time. We're constantly seeking something. We're always looking for that next thing to fill our cup, whether it's out there or in here. Like we need to figure out how to stimulate ourselves. And, I have a lot of anxiety when I travel, and I have a back injury and health issues. So it makes travel not that fun for me. I do love road trips, but it's a lot on my body. I don't like to fly. But, as a young person, I did. I was very adventurous. And so there's a few different ways. If you're like me, where travel, you're kind of over it and you're just whatever, you might be more into taking a course. My dog's right now with the birds in the yard. Let me talk to them for a second. Hey, you guys. Brucey. Bammers. Oh, good boy. What a good boy. Yeah, we see it. We don't need to worry about that. We're good. Thank you. Good job. Bruce isn't convinced, but Bam Bam's coming over here. I gave him mango earlier, so I think he's hoping that I still have some mango for him. Good boy. You're such a good boy. It's getting hot in here and I feel dehydrated. Anyway, sorry. I get very distracted when I'm recording these videos because my dogs are very cute. Also, I end up getting really tired after like the third one, and this is the third one of the day. But if you're somebody like me who's kind of sick of travel, you might be more inclined to take a course of some kind or learn something new or expand your knowledge in some way. But if you're the more stereotypical Sagittarius that really enjoys travel and going to other countries, or going to temples or seeing other cultures and how they live their lives, you might really feel in June and throughout the summer, really, with Venus here, that you really need to get out of the mundane and explore, other places. The only thing is that, we have to keep in mind that we have all of that Taurus energy hitting the area that represents like our daily routine. So we got to strike some balance where we can feed the seeker, the need for knowledge and wisdom and experiences, while also honoring our health and the routines that really set us up for success. And honestly, at the end of the day, that's why I have a hard time with travel, is that my routines really promote my health so much. And so much of that gets deconstructed when I'm traveling that it makes traveling really hard on me, because my body is so sensitive to having structure and stability. So it's kind of like, how is a Sagittarius dominant person that has this need for freedom and expansion, how do you get that while not disrupting your body's need for routine and structure in some way? And so that's probably going to be a big theme in June, how to feed that. I think I found it. I personally don't struggle with that. My version of that is that I have to go on a lot of walks every week. I used to need to do it on a daily basis, and now it's only really like a few days a week. And then I need to have a spiritual practice and some kind of way of really feeding myself, in that kind of more deeper expansion. Like I'm not necessarily seeking expansion out there, but seeking it more from within here. And I have to do things that kind of give me that. But, hiking and walking and spending time in nature does feed that Sagittarius wanderlust part of me. And, I went on a date night with my husband last night, and we went down to Palm Springs and just walked around, and I just had a blast looking at the houses, looking at the different landscaping. That kind of feeds me in the same way that travel used to. Because when I would travel, I really just wanted to walk around everywhere and just take it all in. And so I don't have to go somewhere super far for where I live to feel like I'm getting that. But every once in a while, I'll want to go on a longer road trip, you know. I do really like road trips. That's probably my jam. I have a fear of flying, but if I didn't have a fear of flying, I'd probably be trying to go to Hawaii this year or something, or back to Mexico. I love Mexico. So yeah, that's a big theme for Sagittarius. So let's scale back to our full moon that we have in 3 days. So on June 3rd, we're going to have a full moon in Sagittarius. And so the full moon happens when the sun and the moon are opposite each other. And because we're in Gemini season, the moon is going to be opposite, which is Sagittarius. And this moon's going to be at 13 degrees of Sagittarius. And it's going to be in the area of the chart. The moon is going to be in the area of the chart that represents our identity. And so full moons are a time of manifestation and also letting go and releasing. So when the moon is ingressing into fullness, we can start setting intentions towards what we want to manifest. And since this is happening in the area of identity, who are we? Who are we in our relationships with others? Who are we in our relationship to ourselves? And the big Sagittarius question is, what is your value and belief system around whatever it is that's coming up? So, you know, with this, it's around identity. What is your belief system or your value around your identity? And another big Sagittarius theme is, are you living authentically or in alignment with the life that you yourself want to live? For me, when Saturn was going through Sagittarius, that is when I went sober, because that was kind of like this call out, you know, where I was not living life in alignment with who I felt I authentically was. And it's interesting. I don't know why I feel like my authentic self is sees kind of like living in a pure way. Like I see sobriety as like pure living, and I'm vegan. And I feel like that's also pure living. And there's kind of this idea of purity that my soul feels, that feels very religious, to be honest. It feels very monk-like. And even when I was a little kid, like, and I learned about Buddhism and different ideologies around that resonated for me, because I see like eating meat as, you know, contributing to suffering. I see it as ingesting trauma or ingesting bad things into my body. And I feel that way about alcohol and a lot of drugs, not all drugs, but some drugs. And so for me, I feel very like there's certain things in my soul kind of essence that feel like my truth. And I feel like if I'm not living in alignment with that truth, I feel bad about myself or bad about my life. And that's different for everybody, you know, what that feels like for us. You know, I think like my grandmother, who was a Pisces, she really loved working with children and being of service to children and giving children a good life and educating children and helping children dream and imagine and kind of feeding the artistic side of children. Like that was her passion. I don't have any of that. I do not care about working with children or having children. Like that's not a dream of mine. But you know, that was her authentic self, was that. And so, and I feel that way about animals. Like I feel that way about working with dogs. Working with dogs since I was a little kid, I wanted to work with dogs, and that always felt very authentic to myself. And that's why I ended up working with dogs. And so I think it's different for all of us. And, you know, if you're a Sagittarius dominant person, you know, it's only something that you can really feel in your soul space. Like nobody can tell you, you know, what's in alignment for you. Only you're going to know that. But the full moon is highlighting that, you know, and asking that question, are you in alignment with what you're doing? And it changes too. I think that we have this false sense of like, you know, you're supposed to stay in alignment with the career that you chose when you were 20, you know, or when you went to college. And I think for Sagittarius, that most Sagittarius dominant people that I meet have a really hard time staying in one thing without constantly expanding upon it. Like you need to feel like you're growing and evolving and getting better and smarter and wiser. And so a lot of Sag people end up teaching things that they learn for that reason. I really enjoy teaching too. So a lot of times, you know, I've had astrology clients that I end up teaching the basics and the fundamentals of astrology to them because it's something I enjoy and I learn more through it as well. So things to think about during this full moon. What are you calling in that way that's authentic to you? What are you releasing that's not authentic to you? After the full moon, Venus will enter Leo. So I already kind of talked about that. And then after that, on June 11th, Mercury is going to enter Gemini. So again, the opposite. And this is going to be in the area of relationship. And so this is an opportunity for us to work on our communication in our relationships and, you know, kind of figure out ways that we can have healthy dialogue on maybe issues that we've been having, or it's not even necessarily a challenging thing. It's just, you know, learning to have more constructive communication within our partnership. So this could be with our romantic partnerships or best friends, people we're dating, or business partnerships. So that's a big theme for Sagittarius rising. After that, we are going to have Saturn stationing retrograde at 7 degrees Pisces. And I'm not really going over a lot of the individual transits of the month in the horoscope, but I do go over them in the June 2023 astrology forecast video. The transits on a smaller level, I think, affect us in our personal charts more than they do in the horoscope chart. So I feel like it's nice to watch the forecast and then see how those transits are influencing your actual personal birth chart. And then, you know, the horoscope is fun because it kind of just highlights the themes that are most present and active, but it's still a really general reading, right? So the way that it impacts us is different depending on, you know, what's happening in our personal chart. But after Saturn stations retrograde on the 17th, the next day, the following day on the 18th, we have our new moon in Gemini that is happening at 26 degrees, 26 degrees of Gemini. And again, this is happening in the area that rules partnership. So new moon in Gemini for the Sag rising person, this is a great time to manifest or call in energy around your relationships that are partnered. So again, best friends, business partners, or romantic partner. So if you're single and you want to manifest a love into your life, this is a great time to set that intention. If you're already in a partner, whether it's married or boyfriend or girlfriend or non-binary, whatever it is, if you're in a partnership that's committed, this is a great time to set intentions towards anything that you want to evolve or grow in that partnership. And again, it's Gemini, so communication, like if you're really working on communication with your partner, which is going to be coming up this month, setting intentions around the types of communication that you want in that partnership dynamic is also really positive. And then, you know, let's say that you're not in a partnership, or let's say that your partnership is good. This could be something that you want to manifest with a best friend or business partner. If you're in a business partnership and you guys have been, you know, working on your communication or how you plan things in the business, this is a positive time to be working on that as well. And then a couple days after that, the 21st, we have our summer solstice, and the sun makes its way into the cardinal water sign of Cancer. And so where you know, this is going to be highlighting is the area that Venus had previously been highlighting at the beginning of the month. And this is the area that rules marriage, shared resources, assets, sex, death, and rebirth, all of the Scorpio themes. And wherever the sun is, it brings energy and vitality. So, you know, those are the themes during Cancer season. And then Mercury is going to be joining the Cancer party on the 27th. And so with Mercury in Cancer here, finishing out the end of the month, those things will come up as well in terms of what we're planning, organizing, and communicating. So those are the big themes for you, Sag dominant person. I am starting to hit a wall. I feel like it's too hot in this room, and I need to turn the fan on and go drink some water. So I am going to end it there, and I will see you next month. Thanks for watching. Feel free to hit the like or subscribe if you enjoyed this and you want to get updates on when I post these, and I will see you next month.